Holy crap, ladies and gentlemen, it's happening. You can't stop it. It's time for Fat Man Beyond. Welcome to Fat Man Beyond. I'm Kevin Smith.
I'm Marc Bernardin.
Hey, as per usual,
Oh.
we're in two different parts of the world, but as you can see, Mark is in the Sanctum Sanctorum.
I
whereas
am.
I am currently in the Cantina, man. Scum and Villainy is my home. Mark's sold out for posh address in downtown New York and stuff. But as we normally do it from the Scum and Villainy Cantina, back in the before times, ladies and gentlemen, before we had to cover our mouths and stuff, before when we could lick handrails if we wanted to and shit. We used to do it in the Scum and Villainy Cantina. So in honor of that, tonight my background is the Scum and Villainy Cantina. But speaking of Scum and Villainy Cantina, I haven't said it enough. Scum and Villainy Cantina. We have news for you about the Scum and Villainy Cantina being brought to you by the Scum and Villainy Cantina Katir himself, JC. JC, jump in and tell us your news. Man, look at him bamfing in.
Bamf in.
I got to figure out how to bamf in when we get back to the bar. That'll be the real magic trick.
If you can pull that off, that'd be, I mean, never mind this show. We could take you on the road. Fuck the show. It's all about our bamfing friend.
Never mind the bar. You will have conquered teleportation, my friend.
Yeah, you're no longer a bartender at that point, my friend. You're a mutant.
So, LA can open restaurants for indoor dining at 25% tomorrow. Tomorrow. We aren't able to open tomorrow. Everybody's, are you opening tomorrow? We can't open tomorrow. We have to reinstate insurance, rehire people. But I think what we're going to do is on April 6th, which is our 4-year anniversary, do a tiny ticketed live stream event and celebrate our 4th birthday. And then on Thursday the 8th, open back up so people can come in and get their blue milk and their tater tots and all the goodness. So fingers
That's
crossed.
Tremendous.
April 8th, we will be back.
April 8th. So what day of the week is that?
Thursday.
So then that means April 10th or 11th, Fat Man Beyond will be back at the Scum and Villainy Cantina.
We could probably do that. I'll have to make sure the rules of having events and all that, but I think we can probably do
rules. It's all a hoax.
But yeah, it'd be fun.
I think so too. We had an event at the Secret Stash this weekend where we were letting in people 10 every half hour, and plenty manageable and stuff like that. So I can't imagine we don't get to do at least 25%.
Yeah,
at the Scum and Villainy, especially everything's spaced out and people are in their own booths.
Mm-hmm.
Like what we'll lose, of course, are the people on the floor. But everyone will get a booth probably and be comfy as hell.
Yeah, I think we should have enough space that we could probably put, like 30 or so people in.
That'd be great.
That's good, man. I've loved doing this version of the show. Not leaving, usually doing it in my robe and shit like that. Bottomless. Nobody ever knowed that part. But I do miss the vibrancy of the feedback of the crowd. Like as much as fun as the Q&A is when we stream the show this way from home, it's so much more fun when you're actually looking at the people and interacting with them during the answer to their questions, stuff like that. Having people in the room to laugh at us and stuff like that. Me and Mark have had to resort to laughing at each other, and we don't want that. We want strangers to laugh at us and with us.
Andrew,
so being back at the bar will be great.
Andrew and I have some surprises planned as well for when we get back to try to bring some of the energy and the graphics and the animation that we've added for the virtual shows back to the live environment. So it's just not you guys standing behind the bar chit-chatting anymore. We're going to try to liven it up and add some more, at the risk of sounding horrible, add some Fox News type elements to it. So flashy graphics and it's all exciting, not Fox News content. But
look, we're already a propaganda show. People are always accusing me of it being in the pocket for fucking Marvel and shit. So it might as well go full propaganda and just fox this bitch up. That's awesome to hear, man.
We will keep streaming the show, right? Once we're live, the show will still be streamed. We'll just have a live studio audience with us as well.
Very, very true, man. I like the idea of sprucing it up with some graphics. I saw somebody on Twitter had a. They said, I look forward to the show going back to the cantina, but I like this version of the show because in the cantina they're so far away on two cameras and stuff, and here it's a series of close-ups. So maybe there's a move where we just close up more on that front camera, and then the side camera catches more of the bar.
The plan is to get some new lenses.
Nice.
And
get some of them lenses, those thin lenses. Make a motherfucker look thin, please.
we'll get some long lenses. I think the hope is that we're going to be streaming at least to YouTube in 4K when we get back.
Ooh.
So their
4K is gonna let the audience see exactly how old me and Mark are. Are you sure you want to do that?
Do I gotta get like the 4K surgery?
Yeah, we'll do the Facetune with it too, though.
You need to get a 4K face, Mark, because we're about to enter the fucking world of 4K.
I'm a 2K dude in a 4K world.
Aren't we all? You just said put that on a fucking t-shirt and sell it at your site. What is the t-shirt? Where do you sell it?
The t-shirt, there's a couple. There's the Resistance is Fertile t-shirt and the Be Humble But Let Motherfuckers Know t-shirt are both for sale at embattledclothing.com.
Excellent.
Today I'm just wearing my Sons of Alderaan t-shirt.
Let me tell you something. If I had a sitcom, you would be the funny friend who always wears a different t-shirt every episode.
What do you think this is, my friend?
Good point. This is a fucking show, isn't it? How are you and how was your week, sir?
I'm good. The week was interesting, eventful. Some really good things happening. Some really interesting things happening. This will probably lead into the ad we're about to read, but I've decided to reacquaint myself with the Snyderverse in advance of Zack Snyder's Justice League.
That's what you did with the Marvel films. You did the deep dive. We watched every one in a theater before the new one came out a few years ago. So
yeah,
it's very on brand for you.
It's very on brand for me. I did spend 30 hours in the El Capitan Theater having a 16 movie Marvel marathon before Infinity War. So I'll never recover entirely from that. But
he's got hemorrhoids named Doctor Strange, Thanos, Iron Man for all that time that he's
pretty much. My favorite is Dormammu. He's particularly troublesome.
Mark loves to talk to his own ass. He goes to it every day. It's Dormammu, I have a bargain for you. And he's like, just wipe me, motherfucker. That's all.
Just stop flaring up, if you please. But I watched Man of Steel over the weekend. Not even the weekend. It's like Friday, I think. And it emerged a better movie than I remember it being.
Is that right?
I remember being somewhat down on it when I first saw it in the theater, and I haven't revisited it since. And so now, whatever this is, 6 years later, I liked it quite a bit more than I did the first time. I still have some issues with it. I still have some problems with it. I did a big, long Twitter thread kind of dissecting it. But
his father still didn't have to die. Not that way.
Not that way. Yeah, that is the crux of the problem. Does that boy raised by that man grow up to become Superman?
The guy who's like, do me a favor, never get involved.
No, let the kids die. If they die, it's fine. Don't save me. Don't save anybody. Like why that kid then decides to start saving people without a compelling counter argument, which Ma Kent doesn't really provide. And so it's how does he become this person? That's sort of my biggest crux of the issue. And then Superman shouldn't kill people, but the
rest of it plays pretty damn well. I've revisited it a few times since it came out, and I always thought it was an insanely well done movie. It's not my Superman, the Chris Reeves Superman, the Kurt Swan spit curl wink at the camera Superman and stuff. But Henry Cavill, absolutely wonderful. And in terms of the reinvention, like that score, Zach's direction, it was a journey. So much so that remember then they were like, hey, he's doing another one, and this time fucking Batman's in it. The world went nuts for that. So where are you in the rewatch?
Tomorrow I'm going to do Batman v Superman, the Ultimate Edition, which I've never seen before. But that's on the HBO Max, so I'm gonna tune into that and see how that has sort of aged over time. Because similarly, I remember not really liking that movie when it first came out. And so I'm curious. Like I'm just curious. Like this is going to be a 10 days of revisiting this stuff because I'm curious. Culminating with no doubt Thursday's epic rewatch or epic first watch of Zack Snyder's Justice League.
That's right, kids. The good folks at HBO Max are our sponsors this week for Zack Snyder's Justice League. Can you believe it? We talk about the show for free all the time, but still they jumped on board and they bought some ad time. Thank you very much. Here we are telling you about something we were going to tell you about regardless. Zack Snyder's Justice League drops on what day, Mark?
It drops Thursday the 18th.
Thursday the 18th. Now on Wednesday the 17th, the night before, at 8 o'clock PST, I think, and then 11 o'clock EST or one of those. We do a digital red carpet event that I hosted, and I interviewed Zach for it and stuff like that. As soon as that special ends, and I think it's on their socials and on YouTube, as soon as that ends, it hands off to Zack Snyder's Justice League, which begins at midnight, as of Thursday or something like that. Mm-hmm. Because of the special that we shot, I think I'm now allowed to say it. I hope I don't get fucking fired at this point, but I believe I was told I could finally say something. I may have hinted at it last week, Mark, but
you tried your best not to, but I led you down the primrose path and you held it together.
I almost spake the anti-life equation, for heaven's sakes, but I was able to hold on to it for one whole week. But now I can tell you, I've seen the Snyder Cut. I've seen Zack Snyder's Justice League, and it is fucking wonderful. And I say that with no hint of irony or anything like that. I mean, to say you don't have to raise someone to lower somebody to raise somebody. So we won't compare it to the Justice League movie that we all saw, except to say that this is insanely masterful. This is a poetic, gorgeous, elegant looking movie, 4 hours full of comic book splash pages. It's as if you bought a comic book or a full set of a book that was nothing but double page splash pages. It's just painted so beautifully. Coherent as hell. All the character development that was perhaps missing from other variations or versions, fully on display. This is the highest compliment I could pay. 1 o'clock in the morning on Friday. I got a link for Kevin, this is your link to watch the Justice League. My name splashed all over it, so I couldn't steal it or take screenshots and stuff, security. And so I says to myself, like, well, I could watch it tomorrow morning, but I was like, well, it's Friday night. I got nothing to do. Fuck it. I'm going to watch an hour of this before I go to bed. And then I stayed up till 5 a.m. just fucking watching it. Like, it moves so fucking fast. It does not feel like a 4-hour movie. But everyone gets introduced. Everyone has their own issue almost, like of a comic book, where it's like, first we spend time with Diana, then we spend time with Cyborg, then we spend time with so forth and so on. Flash. It was complete night and day from what we were once told was Justice League. It's a triumph, like truly. I'm so happy for Zack by virtue of the fact that, like, things went horrible in his life. And that's part of the reason that he walked away from Justice League. And very rarely do the creative types, particularly at that very pricey level that Zack works on, are they ever afforded a second bite at the apple, man. And so it was so nice to see that not only was this guy afforded a second bite at the apple to actually finish the movie he wanted to make, he made the exact movie that he wanted to make. It's 4 hours long. It's got everything in it. I talked to him. He said, look, there's definitely like 20 minutes we left out. I was like, just 20? So 4 hours. And I'm telling you, never once was I looking at my watch. I went to the bathroom once, but I brought my laptop with me and took a leak while I watched it and then came back. I was absolutely riveted. They'll be talking about this in film studies classes for years, just in terms of like, it steps out of the traditional definition of a movie, which, to most people is like 2 hours. This is 4 hours. And you look at this movie and you're like, there's clearly at least 2 movies in here, man. But like, it's a giant sumptuous meal. Having it on HBO Max, like, it makes the absolute sense. I'm not saying that because they're our sponsors. I'm saying, like, this is an experience that you could enjoy at home. I don't know how much of the world would have gone out to see the 4-hour cut theatrically, but I guarantee you a lot of people are going to watch it at home. The big question I have is, will they watch it like I did? Are they going to be like me with like, I'll watch an hour tonight and watch the rest? like tomorrow, and then get there and suddenly be like, holy shit, he did it. Like, oh my God, this fucking rocks. So I'm telling you, yes, they are sponsoring us and whatnot. And we appreciate that. It helps to keep the lights on. But let's be honest, we talk about HBO Max, we talk about Snyder Cut all the time. We've been talking about it for a damn year, almost like everybody else. So I say this not as a salesman, but I say this as a filmmaker. I was blown away. Like, I was absolutely blown away. And I was so happy for him every step of the way, because I'm like, God damn it. Like, he had it. And then they took it away. But this is the way that we got it again. And we got the best version of it. If he had to cut this down to 2 hours, because that's not what they did with the Joss Whedon. He did a lot of reshooting. But if Zach had to cut this 4 hour down to 2, I don't know that it would have had the same resonance. Being able to watch this glorious fucking epic, for God's sakes. It's like watching the Thornbirds of comic book movies, or fucking Shogun or something. It just goes on, but never boring. You're always just like, yeah. And in many ways, it's the movie that many comic book fans have always dreamed about, where they're like, just give me hours of this, hours of it, man. There's a lot of action. He's got like a gigantic fuck off action sequence, 2 almost every hour, it feels like. But it was the character building stuff I was most blown away with. We talk about Ray Fisher, and we've done stories about Ray and talked about Ray's issues with the movie and whatnot. Now I get it, because he was completely cut out of that other movie. He's the star of Justice League. He's the heart and fucking soul of it, man, and carries it. Borg life indeed, hashtag Borg life, but his performance is really wonderfully understated and very, very cyborg to me, man. And he was the big discovery for this flick, because everyone else, we've seen Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman, of course, in Man of Steel, as you mentioned, in BVS. But as the new character stepped onto the stage for the Justice League, he got the shortest end of the stick. And now with this Zack Snyder's Justice League, with this 4 hour cut, his storyline is fully instated, and it's beautiful, and it's what it was meant to be. So I can't wait for people to see it, man. It's been really tough not to talk about it and say that I saw it. It's been really tough not to talk with other people like Mark and be like, what did you think? And stuff like that. So soon everybody's going to have that chance. And that chance is March 18th at midnight, ladies and gentlemen, on HBO Max. Zack Snyder's Justice League, finally going to be released to the world. One of the biggest stories in comics, in comic book movies, in entertainment news of the last 2 years, man. And now it's coming to its conclusion. You're actually going to see the Snyder Cut. Remember all those people who were like, there ain't no Snyder Cut. You ain't going to see it. They're not a real Snyder Cut and shit. I'll tell you something. Remember on the show when Jamie Cat Ears was talking about going to like a sneak screening and shit? Mm-hmm. And she described some things about Darkseid and that, and the same shit that the special effects guys I met on Rise of Skywalker when I was over there. And they had worked on Justice League, both of them. They were like, dude, let me tell you, the movie was visionary. All the shit they talked about is literally in the movie. It wasn't a lie. It wasn't like made up. It wasn't like, oh, well, they didn't shoot it. Fucking shot it. It's all there, man. So I can't wait for cats to see it. I felt so happy for that guy. I felt happy for me too, because like I got to sit there and talk to him and geek out about it on the special that happens on Wednesday night. So he's just in a good place, like in general. What a year for him. Aside from this, which is going to be fucking huge. 2 months after this, he's got that fucking Army of the Dead movie or whatever it's called on Netflix. So good for Snyder, man. It's the year of Zach. And it honestly couldn't happen to a nicer guy. He's a real sweet dude. But that ain't a reason to watch a movie just because somebody's nice. If it was, I'd be the most fucking successful filmmaker in Hollywood. And as we all know, that's not true. So niceness aside, it's a fucking great film. And it's a film. This is something they'll study in USC and UCLA and NYU, film studies classes and stuff like that. It's classy as fuck. Can't wait for you to see it, man. When does it happen, Mark? Give them their call to action.
Their call to action, Thursday, March 18th, HBO Max, Zack Snyder's Justice League, finally released to the world. And something tells me that you and I will get to talk deep and long about it after I get to see it on Thursday and for the next podcast, whenever that may be, probably Saturday, maybe Sunday. We'll dig into it for reals.
Absolutely. In the next episode of Fat Man Beyond Kids, we're going to dive deep into the crack of Zack Snyder's Justice League, man. Probably be like the whole episode and shit like that as it comes out just on Thursday, and we'll reconvene on Saturday or Sunday, as Mark said, and gush or talk about it. We'll see. I'll gush, and probably Mark will pick. All right, enough about fucking DC, man. Let's talk about Marvel, kids, because we got a special guest. He was name checked last week while we were talking to Matt Shackman, and that's how this all happened, because he went on Twitter, gave some love.
We have a Justice League trailer that we could show from HBO. Do we want to try it and see if YouTube kicks us off?
That's true. We're always leery about showing video material, kids, in case like YouTube somehow reads it as us violating something. But they did give us footage to show, so let's show it and hope to God. If we get thrown off YouTube, apologies, ladies and gentlemen. It's happened before, but run the clip. It's nothing you've never seen before. They didn't give us any original stuff, but it's a pretty damn... Look at that! Darkseid, Granny Goodness, Desaad. I watched all of this, man. I've seen all this in context. I mean, this is a trailer, and it's very exciting, but I've seen all of this in action, man. And there was a lot. There's a lot of reshooting that had been done, man. Like that whole sequence where Barry saves Iris for the first time. And then we just found out this week that the girl who plays Iris is coming back to play Iris in the Flash movie. Mm-hmm. Very, very cool.
Sweet.
All right, so maybe since we didn't hear it, maybe YouTube won't throw us off. Are we still on YouTube?
We still... Hello?
We're still good. We're still good.
Amen. Amen. Apologies in advance, kids, if I slur any words. It's not because I'm drunk. I don't like to drink. I hate drinking. I love weed, and you know I'm always stoned. But I had that periodontal surgery and stuff. So some molars came out on each side. So my tongue, this is such a weird thing I never encountered before. My tongue, the back end of my tongue spills out now into my mouth. And so periodically you're like, she fell. It's very strange. So I was glad I was never one of those kids that made fun of people that slurred their words, because now that's all I'm fucking doing. And as a person who speaks for a living, did you just hear it? I said speaks. It's like speaks.
I know.
It's kryptonite. I sound like Daffy fucking Duck. I'm going to lose all my cool jobs. I was so scared they weren't going to let me do the Zack Snyder special, because they're going to hear me talk and be like, bro, you can't even say Superman without spitting on us and shit like that. So I apologize if you hear any slurring words or something. It's my dental work that's going on.
Anyway, Daffy Duck is on brand for Warner Brothers, though.
You're not kidding. HBO Max is very happy for me to sound like both Sylvester and Daffy Duck. Back to what we were saying. Last week we had Matt Shackman on the show talking about WandaVision. Matt Shackman name checked. He was very kind. Most people talk about themselves like me. He started giving out credit to all the other people that helped make WandaVision come to life. And one of those names was Andy Park, and Andy tweeted about it. And so I liked it. Mark saw it, and we were like, let's grab him, man. Let's see if he'll come on to talk. And by God, he's come on to talk to us, man. From Marvel Studios, ladies and gentlemen, the guy without whom you don't get to see the heroes that you see on the big and little screen. Give it up for our guest tonight, Mr. Andy Park.
Hey, what's up, guys?
How are you, Captain? How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much, Mark and Kevin, for having me on. I'm a big fan of both of you guys. So
this is a goddamn world. That was why we brought you on. We heard you liked it. We're like, get him. He likes it. Andy, explain to all the cats at home. There are definitely people in our audience, well-studied, know exactly who the fuck you are. But to the cats at home who are casual Marvel fans, explain to them what your exact position is in Marvel Studios.
Okay. My title is Director of Visual Development, and I'm part of a group of artists in the visual development department of Marvel Studios. It was formed back in 2010 by Charlie Wen and Ryan Meinerding. They were pivotal in the early Marvel films, from Iron Man to Captain America and Thor. And around that time, right before they're about to start Avengers, Kevin Feige, and the leadership of Marvel said, I think it would behoove them to create an in-house group of artists, knowing that they're going to have connected films for the years to come. Because normally, if people don't know, concept artists that work on these films, that design these characters and scenes and stuff like that, are freelancers. So they only come on for a little bit, then they get laid off and they have to go find another film. So this kind of department is unique.
So for the first few movies, that was how they functioned. They hired somebody the same way in the movie biz, you hire somebody to do a function. But they were all freelancers. Once the job was over, they moved on. And if they like their work, maybe they bring them back. But Marvel did not at that point have its own built-in division of artists that they kept on staff all the time?
Exactly. It was like the very first like Iron Man, working on that, Jon Favreau, and bringing on, in particular, Ryan Meinerding, Phil Saunders, and Adi Granov, which I think you know that name. And they were so instrumental. Normally, concept artists just do the design, then they kind of leave. But this was a situation where they stayed on and was actually working with, at that time, Stan Winston studio to build the Iron Man armor. So they were working with the designers, the concept artists that did the initial design, and work together as they're making it into something that's real. And as Marvel saw that, Kevin saw that, they saw, wow, this is something very advantageous, something to have. And Kevin's really into like art and illustration. So I think he built that relationship with Ryan in particular. And then that's when, they brought him back to, work on Captain America. He was pivotal for that look and feel. And then Charlie was pivotal for Thor. And then when they're about to start Avengers, that's when I got the call saying, hey, we're forming this in-house group of artists, just like they're forming the Avengers on screen. And that was like a dream call where I was like, yes, of course. And then I've been there since then. So this is my 11th year there. And our whole job is to design the characters, the villains, and to come up with the visual tone, look in keyframes for the films.
So in many ways, we've seen in the behind the scenes stuff on some of the video releases and whatnot, or on YouTube. Before even a writer or a director comes into the project, you guys are actually at work. Is that correct?
Yes, totally. A lot of times, like for example, Guardians of the Galaxy, there was James Gunn wasn't hired yet. There was no script. Kevin just came to our office and said, hey, we're going to be working on Guardians of the Galaxy. That blew my mind. As a Marvel comic fan growing up, I was aware of that. But I was like, after the success of Avengers, you would never expect they would be doing Guardians of the Galaxy.
Like every Marvel Comics fan, you were like, that?
Exactly.
Why would you pick that?
Exactly. I was like, I'm going to be out of a job soon. But, that speaks to the genius of Kevin Feige, right? He's not just going to do what the typical executive is going to do. He has a bigger vision. And then from that point, we spent 2 weeks just coming up with designs. It was like blue sky, whatever we wanted.
So think about this, kids. That means that, for years, Groot has been in the comics, but somebody actually had to, before there was a James Gunn involved, one of the artists had to be like, what would Groot look like for real? And had to, now how close is that original pass of Groot to what we saw on the big screen?
That's what's great, because we're full time, we work even after the concept art. We spend months doing the concept art, showing to the executives and all the leadership, and then that gets approved. We often work with, we also have a 3D in-house modeler. At that time it was Josh Herman, currently Adam Ross, and then we work even with the VFX houses or the costume designer if it's a real practical character, and we work with them to kind of basically get that initial vision to hold its way through to the final, what you see on film. And even a lot of times we even work in post. So like, for example, when I was working on Hela, I even worked in post with the VFX studios, trying to get her look really solidified, and that her look was even evolving in that step of the process. So that's another unique thing about our department.
When you guys were designing Hela in particular, was there ever a moment where somebody was like, we can't do the fucking horns, we can't do those antlers?
Yeah, that was me from the very beginning. When Taika came to us and said it wasn't cast yet, and he's like, we're doing Hela, and I was like, oh, that's so awesome, because the more comic booky it is, I'm a huge like comic book fan, especially Marvel. That's more fun than the more like tactical real world stuff, right, which is fun too. But that one was one of like, my job as a concept artist, knowing that it's going to be live action, is to try to make it real. How do we make it believable, right? So I did, I did versions where it's smaller, because knowing that every time she turns her head, it can't be this big old like wide angle thing. So the other option that I had was like, hey, we could still get the silhouette, but let's put it on her back. You still get the silhouette. Now the actress can move. Taika was like, no, he wasn't having that. He's like, I want Jack Kirby. So I was like, okay. So it went against everything that, that I'm trained to do as a concept artist, but I did it. I did these big old ass like antlers, and he was like wider. Like it was essentially 6 feet wide. And that was one, and I spent like months, it probably took about 6 months to finally get like fully approved. And it was one of those designs where I did it and I was like, I don't know how they're going to do that in VFX, but I did what I was told.
So did you know that they would do shit like where she pretends to wipe her hair back and then they pop out? Was that part of the imagining early on?
Yeah, that's why it took 6 months, because it wasn't just doing that one version. I was doing versions where the antlers were smaller. There was, early on there was versions that even the antlers would cover and create a mask. Without the mask, just a little bit here, a little bit, covering more. So there's all these different versions that she would have. So I didn't remember. I don't think they told us that she was necessarily going to be doing that. But I remember when I don't know if that happened during filming or what, but when I saw that, I was like, and then of course, when they told me Kate Blanchett, I was like, oh my gosh, that is.
So that's right. So you start drawing these people without knowing who the people are.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of times I'll try to cast them myself. But
What's the closest you've come?
Yeah, what's the closest you've come?
Never been successful in casting.
You're no Kevin Feige, man. That's for damn sure. What is it like working for Feige, man? We imagine it. We hero worship. Maybe it's one of my, if not currently, my favorite filmmaker working today, because he is telling one gigantic story. He's using a bunch of directors to do it, but he's show running like my favorite piece of entertainment that's currently being made. What is it like working for the guy? You said before he likes the visuals.
Yeah, it is. I always talk about him. I always gush about him because, I've worked this 26 years as a professional artist. And this guy, it's so nice to be able to work for someone that's the head of the studio that you believe in, that you genuinely believe in. And, I go to the meetings, as I'm leading the films, certain films, I go in, in a room of 25 people, all the different heads of every department. Kevin's there. And so often, like, he'll say something and I don't say it out loud, but in my head, I'm just like, oh my gosh, he gets it. Oh my gosh, he gets it. Like, his choices are just like amazing. Like, he really gets it. He has that perfect combination of, he knows the source material. He's a fan of the comics, he's not afraid of it. Like, and then he's a great filmmaker. Like, you might have one, but it's very hard to find someone who has both of these things, especially with his resume and working with, Donner back in the day, and just and all the comic book films he has. So he is amazing, and he's someone that, like, every time I show him a piece of artwork, the critiques that he'll have, the little choices, it's usually very concise. Oh, why don't you try this or that? You're just like, yes. Why didn't I think of that?
It seems as if, like, for a long time in Hollywood, the look of the movie seemed to be a little afraid of being what the comic books were. Like the best example, I think, is like the X-Men at first, where we're not going to put them in yellow and blue because we're never going to do that. So it becomes black leather, it becomes Matrix a bit. What's the philosophy that you hold when you're looking at these books and these characters from the books and bringing them to the screen? Because it feels like there's some fidelity you're definitely trying to convey.
Yeah. And I think that's the great thing about working in this department, because it's not just myself. There's a whole group of artists that work there, full-time and freelance. And I think something that I bring to the table because of my background, I used to draw comic books. My first job was working for Rob Liefeld. So I come.
What years were you working for Liefeld?
95 through 97.
Oh, the hot years, man. That was like during the Image years when everything was blowing up and on fire.
And that's when Chasing Amy came out, and we were like, hanging out with my inker friends. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so perfect. Because I didn't know what inkers were too until I got hired. I'm like, what, you just would go over my pencils?
For a guy that read comics, I remember the first time the notion of the inker was introduced to me, and Walter was like, I was like, who drew this? And he was like, this person, but this person inked it. I was like, what do you mean ink? He's like, well, somebody draws it in pencil, and then somebody comes in and draws on top of it in pen, and that's the lined artwork. And I'm like, well, isn't that just tracing? And he's like, well, yeah, I guess it is. So like the Chasing Amy scene was, kind of a quasi insiders comic book world joke that has haunted me ever since then. Because every inker, I went on to work with Jimmy Palmiotti on Daredevil. And he was like, Tracer, am I? Fuck you.
That was perfect.
So wait a second. So you were working in comics. So is that how Kevin knew your work? He's like, I like his stuff. Let's get him.
No, it was really through, I mentioned Ryan Mannerding and Charlie Wen in the beginning because I worked with them. After comic books, I went into concept art working for God of War, the Sony PlayStation video game. So I worked on God of War 2 and 3. And then they left those two and started getting into film. And then once I got into Marvel, because of that connection, they gave me a call once they decided they wanted to form a team. But Mark, just to answer, sorry, I'll go on.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I wanted to answer your question, Mark. So yeah, I think something that I feel like I bring to the table is, I am still like a fanboy. Like I love these characters and especially Marvel. And I feel like the concept designs that I do will always try to be like, I always do the one that's like, okay, this is like, I give them a range, like the more comic accurate one. And then you start doing like, okay, let's see how far we have to go. And it really depends on the director. Every director has their own inclinations, and some are like Taiko's like, I want Jack Kirby. That's kind of rare, right? Others you could tell are a little bit more afraid to go, like it's a little campy. Right. So that, like even Joss, like, right? I'm working on Age of Ultron. That's when I did the first design for Wanda. The very first painting I did, I gave her like the crown and everything, knowing that, okay, they're not going to go for this because why is she wearing that? That's the good thing about Marvel Studios films. Like there's usually a reason, right? Whether some level of believability, that's something they've established. So really, to answer your question, it really kind of depends on the director. And sometimes they lean towards like, okay, we want it to look like the comic, but other ones that you've seen are like, oh, we've taken some liberties. But overall, I feel like the track record is decent as far as like satisfying the comic book fan.
Absolutely agreed. Here's my question about Wanda. You talked about drawing her for Age of Ultron. So that was the first design of Wanda. Did you work on the WandaVision design of the Scarlet Witch's outfit? Did you ever draw that?
Yeah, I designed the final one. So that was like that was the dream, because I did her concept design for Captain America Civil War, and that one for the Russo brothers, knowing that their taste is a little bit more grounded. So I still wanted something here, so I did this one design where I gave her like this headband just to like suggest it, right? Knowing again they're not gonna pick that, and yeah, they didn't pick that one. So when Mary Lavanos came to me, the producer of WandaVision, and pitched the show to me, it was one of those like, yes, yes.
It's time.
Yes. Finally. So I got to do her design. And
wait, so did you put the hidden Mind Stone, the Vision homage in her collar?
Caught that, huh? Yeah.
The internet caught that long before me, and not a dry eye on Twitter the day that went out. Like so many, I'm crying with the picture of the, if you look closely, kids, if you're not following along, the Scarlet Witch's costume in her collar has a little piece of Vision. It's the outline of the Mind Stone, so that he's always with her, which is so fucking beautiful. Where did that little detail come in?
That's the fun of my job, right? Because I'm spending days and hours and days coming up with different versions. Like to just come up with that Wanda or that Scarlet Witch design that you saw on screen, like I did dozens and dozens and meetings upon meetings. And so I'm thoroughly doing research, trying to come up with ideas. Something else that you see in her kind of this chest area is it's a subtle, I'm not able to show it. I'm actually going to be posting on my Instagram tomorrow, by the way. That's when I'm allowed to show it. But if you notice around here, there's a subtle like W.
Yes.
Below that is a V, WandaVision, right? So there's things like that you throw in there that audiences might not, they don't necessarily catch those kind of things. But as a designer, just like car designers, whatever, they throw in things and themes and different languages that the normal person might not catch. But it's what makes these designs more deeper and gives it some level of it makes it fun for us, You
see this stuff long before we do. So when did you first design the Wanda costume for WandaVision? Like what year was that?
Oh man, I remember I was at San Diego Comic-Con because I had a booth. So I had to have a meeting to finalize her costume. So I ran to my hotel room and went on Zoom, or it wasn't Zoom, I forgot what it was. Blue Jeans or something that with Kevin Feige. But I think that was like, gosh, when was that? 2018? 17, 18. I think it's 2018.
You draw a thing and then you don't get to see that thing realized sometimes for 2-3 years.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing is the other part of my job is right after I design it, we work very often with the costume designer. So
so it keeps going.
yeah, so in this case, I'm working with Myers Rubio and then the specialty costumers and Jose Fernandez and Ironhead, and they're the ones who came, and then our 3D modeler and Adam Ross were then we'll actually start. They'll start like building it. They'll show it to me. I'll go to the fittings, with Lizzie, and I'll see it, in progress, and then you kind of. It's such a treat, finally seeing it with Lizzie at the end. You're just like, oh my gosh.
Are the actors allowed input? Like, can Lizzie be like, can we do this? Can we do that? Can we have that?
Yeah, really? Yeah. They definitely, I mean, not usually like early on during the design phase, but when they're actually building it, there's a lot of times where it's like, okay, I cannot lift up my arms. I remember, that happened with certain actors, and those costumes are very uncomfortable, So it's always like the first time, an actor wears it, they're like, oh, they're excited because they're like, I'm a superhero. And then in the sequel, you could tell.
Change this shit. I'm tired of being a superhero.
I can't turn my neck.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
So what is, in terms of the artwork, oftentimes they'll show us when a movie comes out or a show comes out, the concept artwork. And like, sometimes they are literally frames from the movie. How often is that the case? So really the question should be, I guess, how often is a piece of concept art not wind up being captured by the filmmaker?
Oh man, I mean, you're seeing it right now. Like, that's a keyframe I did for Joss for Avengers. He described it as the Dilophosaurus moment, where the dinosaurs, and so this is all Iron Man's pieces come out. So as you can see, it's not 1-to-1, but it's the inspiration. It's the, essence of that moment. And that's kind of the purpose of, not only we do costume designs and character designs, but we also do what are called keyframes, the individual story moments. So a lot of times, you could tell it's what inspires the final, but there are a lot of times when it's like, oh my gosh, like when I'd be at the premiere with my coworkers and we'd see a shot and I'm like, oh my God, that looks like exactly like your keyframe. So it's kind of cool to see that.
To go all the way back, when was the first time you knew that being a concept illustrator was a job you could do?
That happened, like the early days of the internet, right? So when I was first drawing for Rob Liefeld, eventually I worked for Mark Silvestri, Top Cow, drawing Tomb Raider. The internet was still quite new. And then once I started seeing artists and their website, because I went to art school and that's where I learned how to paint and do full illustrations, do realism. And comic books, I'm doing more stylized and only with the pencil. So once I started seeing like that, I was like, oh, that's a job, like concept art for video games and movies. That really spoke to me because, and as video games, especially video games, became more, graphic heavy, that's when like concept artists became more important, versus the early days, right, where it's just 8-bit. So it was the internet that really started like revealing like, oh my gosh, I can do full illustrations, designing characters, because I love characters. That's the story, the part of the story that I love contributing to. So yeah, it was really, when was that? Like kind of the early 2000s or kind of mid, like 2000. Yeah, kind of early 2000s.
How hard is it to keep the secrets, Andy? That's what I'd be fired for. Like, because I'd constantly be like, you got to see this outfit. And they're like, you're fucking fired. How hard is it to keep quiet for like 2-3 years at a clip? Because the magic that's coming. For example, on Endgame, fucking Cap holding Mjolnir. Somebody must have drawn that as a keyframe, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's Ryan.
To sit on that information for as long as he had to, and only telling the people who are involved in the production, that seems like the most difficult part of the job.
It's so hard because man, even like I don't even tell my kids or my wife, right? Because they're fans of these films, so I want them to enjoy it. So and so my friends they ask me all the time, but I'm legally not bound to. But even beyond that, I want people to enjoy this, and it's really hard because I'm like, oh my gosh, wait till you see. Wait till you see, oh my gosh, it's going to be crazy what happens. And there's so many things that right now I'm like, oh, wait till you see like these future movies. Oh my gosh.
I would imagine like Endgame though, which was such like a fucking epic. And eventually a movie that involves literally every piece of Marvel IP that's ever been in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That would be something that I'd constantly want to, like, if somebody was like, tell me what happens. I was like, I can't. Can you guess? Okay, I'll let you guess. Like 20 heroes showed up. No. 50 heroes show up. No. All the fucking heroes. I would lose my job so fucking fast. You're a good man. And it's a good reason that you're keeping it quiet too, because it is, as much as we love spoilers and we want to know what's coming, we want all the information we could possibly get and glean in towards the Marvel flicks because we love them. The element of surprise makes it so fucking incredibly amazing. It's so magical to watch that movie. I will never forget the thunderous reaction to the Mjolnir soaring through the air and people for 1 second being like, but how? And then finding it in the hand of Cap and everybody going nuts, man, just screaming, like so fucking crazy. I'm glad I didn't know that was going to happen because I screamed right along with them and stuff. But as a fan of this shit, I also want to know what's happening. So when you were like, there's even stuff now, I'm like, ooh, what stuff are you talking about?
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of those audience reaction videos in the last year. I'm like, I need to feel something good. Show me the good things. Computer, I would like to.
Exactly.
It's always Avengers reactions.
Yep. So and we were there together. We were there together at the Avengers premiere, right?
Which one? You went?
Oh, I know, Kevin, you were there.
I was there.
I wasn't.
Yeah.
I had fallen off Marvel's list by that point.
Oh, no.
I was just a dude.
All right, so if you were working on WandaVision like 2 years ago, or actually 3 years ago at that point, in terms of like, hey, we're going to head in this direction, we're going to need concepts, we're going to need costumes. I don't want you to spoil or get in trouble, but we know the movies that are forthcoming. So we know that Black Widow's forthcoming. Did you work on that?
Yeah, I led the team on that one. That was
You led the fucking team on it?
On the biz dev team. So I got to design Black Widow throughout the years. And then I designed Taskmaster as well. So I cannot wait for that film. It's so sad.
You did Taskmaster?
Yeah, that was fun.
He looks fantastic, man. We've only seen him in the trailers, but he looks badass. I saw his pop though recently, which looks amazing.
Thanks, man.
All right, so there's Black Widow. Eternals is after that. Did you get to work on that?
Well, Shang-Chi is before that, right?
Is Shang-Chi before the Eternals? No.
Yes.
Is it really?
Is it July or June? I forgot.
So it goes Black Widow, Shang-Chi, and then the Eternals?
I think Spider-Man is... Wait, when is Spider-Man coming out? I don't even remember.
Yeah.
I don't even know anymore.
Because you're working on 19 things at once.
Yeah. And you're working on the future as well.
Not Spider-Man. What am I talking about? Isn't that next year? I don't even know.
I think they're almost done shooting, so next year.
Yeah.
So
what was it?
Yeah.
All right,
but it's Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Eternals, and the next year is Spider-Man and Doctor Strange.
Oh, you're right.
All right, well, here's a question. We know down the road, Blade is happening. Is somebody concept arting Blade right now?
Oh yeah. We're working on like all these films right now, right? Or not all of them, but their stuff.
It's pretty much anytime we hear a title of a film, I would imagine you guys have already started before we even hear what's coming.
Well, I mean, I know they started to a degree. I just, when it comes to what we work on, like the only ones that I can say that we started working on, like I'm working right now on Captain Marvel 2 and Ant-Man, and the Wasp: Quantumania.
What happens? No. So wait, are you just, I don't know if you could talk about it, but because I don't think they've officially come out and said it, but rumors on the internet is Kang is a big figure in Quantumania. So if Kang was a big figure in Quantumania, somebody would be designing him right now?
Or has already designed it.
You're making me nervous.
Step carefully, Andy.
I know.
We'll leave you off the hook on that one. It's just so thrilling to think about the idea that like a movie that we've heard a name for, that there's a team of artists already working on images and more importantly, the keyframes that light our hearts on fire. Like seeing that moment. You guys are manufacturing that moment long before we ever get to see that moment play out, man. You're breathing rarefied air. And not only are you seeing things that we don't get to see, you're literally creating the things that we don't get to see. God, that must be amazing.
And a lot of times we'll, create designs of characters or keyframe moments that don't end up making the movie, right? Because we're, there's so many different versions or changes, or now they're like, okay, that's not in the film anymore. So those things happen all the time too.
Is that
And, like, how
heartbreaking where you're
often?
like,
That's what I was going to ask. Like, how often do you design something that you think is like awesome? You should do this for that. And then they're like, we're going to go a different way. You're like, but you guys, this was.
Yeah, it's definitely heartbreaking as an artist, right? As a concept designer. But, we're there to serve the story. We're not there to showcase our designs and artwork. So, we have to have that perspective.
and too, it's you must be so disciplined to not like. It would be so easy to be the king of Instagram by dropping this stuff early. People be like, he's got all the fucking good stuff. But you show wonderful restraint in as much as you're mentioning that only tomorrow you're allowed to put up something in regards to WandaVision.
Yeah. I'm going to be posting the Scarlet Witch design that I did.
And so they give you a date where they're like, you can share before this, you can't do shit.
It's in the past, it's usually been once the films or projects are released, but usually we have like art books that come out in conjunction with these. But this is a situation where the art book for WandaVision hasn't come out yet, so this required like special permission.
What has been the best part of the job so far in terms of, I'm sure, drawing, of course, when you're wonderful at drawing and being able to express yourself. But in terms of like, holy shit, like what's been the fun kind of, I can't believe I work in the movie business moment for you?
Definitely when I first got hired, like, Avengers, because, growing up in the 80s with talking with my friends, like it was always like, you can never have an Avengers film. You can't have that many like main characters, you can't have 6 of them. Then Endgame happens. So I remember working on that film, being that first moment, like, I cannot believe I'm, working for Marvel Studios on Avengers. There's just been so many moments. I think working on Ant-Man and the Wasp was special because that was one where I was flying back and forth from LA. I live in LA to Atlanta to where the production was, working with the costume designer and trying to work and going to the fittings with Paul and Evangeline, trying to get these suits to become fully realized, and then going on set, seeing Peyton and watching them film and seeing, it started with a blank page. Obviously, we start with the source material of Jack Kirby and Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, all that stuff. But I'm talking about the blank page for concept design for the film, and all the time, blood, sweat, and tears, trying to get these approvals, and then to watch them film, that I think that one was very special too. And then of course going to the premieres, and then so many of these are like, it's so hard to pick like what was one thing, because I feel like every single film is like, I have those moments of just like, I have to pinch myself because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And especially what they're building, because like Ant-Man was a film where you're like, okay, this is going to be the end of the MCU, right? Because you're like, after Avengers, you're going to do a character named Ant-Man. It's kind of ridiculous, right? So, and then that was, successful. And then you're like, okay, it's definitely going to be Guardians of the Galaxy. That's going to be the end of the MCU. That does well. And then
the current version of that is the Eternals. Like, come on. This seems like a bridge too far, but it's going to work again, just like they all.
Yeah. It's funny how people still say that even after all these years. But they've proven themselves, So it's like it's kind of amazing what Kevin Feige and all of them can do.
Was there a difference in the workload between WandaVision and say one of the features? I mean, given the length WandaVision is as long as three movies. So how does that change the amount of renderings that you and your team are doing?
It was actually almost same. It's a little different because there's like less like superhero type of or villain type of characters to design. So that one is very, besides, the Agatha and Wanda and Vision, those characters, it was very keyframe heavy. So the group of artists that I was working with was doing like a ton of those kind of moments from when Monica's, her becoming or just gaining her powers as she's going through the hex. Yana Shermer was doing that design, or the initial designs of what does the hex look like when like the military vehicles come through. And Jackson Z, our resident amazing artist, was doing those keyframes. And when Wanda's like first forming the hex, so because they wanted to see like, what does this look like? Because it's very weird and having the TV static and stuff. So what are these visuals? What can they look like? So it kind of starts with us and then we go back and forth, and then eventually they, hand it over to the VFX to fully flesh it out.
So did you do Agatha as well?
No, that one initially was done by one of our artists, Yana Shermer, and then eventually Mayas Rubio and her artist did their look for her.
Was there ever, like in the comics, of course, she's got white hair, she's a little old lady. Was there ever like, well, we got to put white hair on her, and it just went away?
I don't think there was no, I don't remember ever seeing a white hair version for her.
I thought it was a good choice. Like the whole time when people were like, I think it could be Agatha Harkness and stuff. And when she finally revealed herself and she had her own hair, or at least like dark hair, I was glad she wasn't like the white-haired old lady version.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Marco.
I was just going to say, it must be hard to like have to pick a favorite child, but is there one of your designs that is the closest to your heart, that you feel like this is the most me? It changed the least from idea to execution. It's the one I'm most proud of. Not that you need to throw shade on anything else, but be like, you know what? That's the one. That's the one when I get an Oscar. That's the song they play out when I get my Oscar.
It is really like picking who do I like better, my daughter or son, which is impossible, of course. But I mean, this Scarlet Witch one was pretty darn awesome, and just seeing it, the reveal. I think before this one came out, I would usually say like Ant-Man. I really loved designing that character, especially given like, even though it's cool, the old Jack Kirby design, but it's inherently kind of like goofy and kind of ridiculous, right? So being able to take that and then bring it into our world and still be a little goofy in some ways, right? It had to be clunky, it looked like built in the 60s, but still make it cool for modern day. So that was a unique challenge. So I would say, can I say two? That one and Wanda for now.
It's your son and your daughter.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So does somebody did you come up with the concept that like, I'm going to press this and it's going to go away?
Oh, that one. I think that one with Peyton, I think there was talk of like, is there a way that it's not just, So then, I started doing designs of like, what can it look like? And because knowing that there always has to be a contrast with Stark technology. Like for PIM technology, it has to be more analog, right? It can't be like Tony's eventually was just and disappeared, and you're like, where the hell did it go, right? Versus Ant-Man's, you kind of want to feel it and see it, so that's why it always had to be like, okay, you need to see it, even though even this is still impossible to do, but at least it's like, you could see it and it makes sense in movie magic. So I think that one was one that Peyton wanted to do. We just had to figure it out, how to
it's so exciting or interesting to me, and both actually, to hear that there's a thought process where that involves statements like, well, PIM technology would not look as slick as Stark technology. Like that attention to detail in the world can only come from people who are fans of the material.
Yeah, and that's the fun of the job, because we're deep diving into like the whys, the whos, and like the whats when it comes to each of these designs, right? So again, it's stuff that the casual viewer won't pick up on, but that's the kind of the stuff that will subconsciously make things like, okay, that's believable, that feels different than Stark Tech. Because if it just looked like Stark Tech, that would be a problem. I think that would be something that then people would pick up on that. Right.
Yeah, and oddly enough too, like that detail would pull them out of the story. Like that's not real, as if any of this shit's real. But exactly. It's so convincing as a fan that you buy it. Like, I'll buy pseudoscience that doesn't make sense. Like until you were like, it's impossible for that helmet to actually work like that. I was like, oh man, like, is it really impossible?
I keep seeing it happen.
Yeah, they do it all the time. Is there an Oscar for this position?
No, unfortunately, like there's no. The closest would be costume design. So costume designers, get nominated. Like Ruth Carter, she got the Oscar for Black Panther, and that was a film that Ryan Mannerding led the visual development department. So you kind of like
one for production
share
design?
that.
There should be a production design.
Production design, they do all the environments, the sets, the vehicles, all that kind of stuff. But we work mainly with the characters, the heroes, the villains, costumes, and there's no particular like Oscar for that.
I think between that and stunts, we should make a push for the Oscars to start recognizing these craftsmen who've been doing this job
stunts,
since
definitely.
the beginning of Hollywood.
True. And also, like in terms of this job, like I can't think of a more essential stepping stone in the process. Like every filmmaker, it sounds like, that comes to the table, and it doesn't sound like it based on just what Andy said, but in my reading about Marvel over the last decade, every person that steps up to the table, so to speak. God, I'm so stoned, I forgot my point. What was I trying to say? I think it was a valid point.
The Oscar talk.
How crucial the concept illustration is.
How crucial it is actually to have that step, somebody who envisions it, because that's what I was trying to say. Based on what I've seen, I don't think a single Marvel director, with the exception of maybe Favreau at the beginning, has ever come to the table with nothing except a script. It sounds like when they hire you, you're like, here's a script and here's a bunch of what it could and should look like.
Yeah. I think that is definitely, like you saw like those making behind the scenes WandaVision, you see the walls, like a lot of that stuff in the artwork that was on the walls was comic book, source material, but a lot of it was also our art, because that they plaster it along the wall. And then whenever people come by, writers and other people in the production, that's their source of inspiration. Hopefully, and that's the the hope, at least, that they can be like, oh, cool, we're going to be doing this moment. It might not be exactly this, or it might. A lot of times it is exactly that. So yeah, and I think that's something that Kevin Feige definitely embraces and recognizes. So all thanks to him that he embraced our whole department.
It makes the movies better. It's just that simple. It basically, think about it in terms of when movies come together. Let's say you got a director being hired to direct somebody's script. If they were to just start the process there, you don't get the long lead that these cats do in their department, where they're like thinking about it and drawing it out 2-3 years in advance of somebody actually stepping onto a set. So when you get to the making of the movie, you don't spend 2-6 months in pre-production trying to figure out what it'll look like or what the characters will look like. A lot of the work has been done. Like, we've already kind of envisioned this. So take this and run with it, man. Like, it's, in terms of big budget studio filmmaking, it very much is a collaborative process, it sounds like.
Yeah, but I just think a lot of other studios aren't just set up this way, right? Because Disney's or Marvel Studios is in a unique situation where they have their leadership set, versus a lot of other films that are made out there. They have to build a team, find a director, find this, and then they have to hire the artists and stuff like that. Versus, Kevin Feige's always there, he's leading it, and we're always there. So we could always just walk over to us or call us on Zoom now and say, hey, years later we want to do this. Can you start doing artwork?
And it also seems like
kind of cool.
It seems like innovation happens when you have the desire and the wherewithal to build departments like this. You don't get ILM unless George Lucas is like, you know what? I don't want to go to outside vendors. I want to build a team myself that can always be working on, always refining and always figuring out ways to streamline the system. And I think, to your point, like, yeah, we're honestly saving Marvel money, and we're making the projects better by all of us being on staff and all of us being here.
Yeah, I think Lucasfilm they also have that, right? They're the only ones that essentially has that kind of department as well. So I think it's only them and Marvel. But I'm not sure. I know there's been other studios that have attempted to create this, but I think it's the other studios are so big. They're such behemoths that it's really difficult to try to centralize and make this like just departments. There's too many leaders.
It's beautiful because it is Marvel, who, of course, one of the big tentpoles in comic book history, paying homage to their comic book roots by like bringing artists in to be like, hey, realize these characters for us before we get too deep into the process. And watching those characters like take shape, like they, I would imagine on the production end, they're like, all right, that Ant-Man looks great. Now we can move forward with the story. This story is going to play better because we know exactly what this cat's going to look like. And we know what this cat looks like because we got a bunch of artists to draw it in the real world ahead of time. And the nice thing too is, like you said, is Stan, Jack, Ditko, all the source material is there for you to look at and reinterpret and bring it into like a current audience. Somebody who can look at that outfit and be like, that is really cool. It's just such a unique position. And it should be, not like awards or everything, but it should be awarded because it sounds like you guys are a pretty crucial step in the process to the movies that we see. And if the filmmaker gets awarded from time to time, it seems like the visionaries who are the ones with their the boots in the dirt first before anybody else, first one off the boat. That's you guys, man, heading into battle right away, long before a luxurious asshole like me or somebody better than me comes along and is like, oh, I know how to do this. It's like you guys have already kind of done it for them in 2 dimensions and sometimes 3 with modeling. You
guys are the new Marvel bullpen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely that kind of model. And that's why I definitely appreciate directors like Matt Shackman when I heard him mention me, I was like, oh, like I appreciate that so much because it means a lot,
It's thank God he shouted you out because otherwise we wouldn't have had you on the fucking show. And you're gold, man. Like you're absolute gold. You're in the nerve center. Like honestly, you get to walk across the hallway and talk to the single most fucking important Kevin on the planet, the Kevin that must be saved at all costs, like a friend and shit like that. How dope is that?
He is pretty cool. He's pretty cool. I pinch myself very often.
A great fucking job. What do you want to do in the future? What's the goal? Do you eventually want to direct, or you're like, nah, fuck that?
I know a lot of artists have that kind of. I don't, because I've seen it, and I have so much respect for you guys doing that because that is hard. Because I mean, you're juggling every single.
The Marvel guys got it hard. I got it easy. Man. Those cats got it hard. You could direct one of my movies if you do it in your sleep.
Well, the writing part is also hard too, right? But I don't know. I'm an artist, so I definitely want to. I think the dream is to kind of create something of my own, right? But of course, as you know, it's like one of the hardest things to do, right? And especially when you have a family, trying to make a living, all that kind of stuff, all the reality stuff. But
and also when the job that you have is so fun. Most people, when they dream about doing something else, they're in the midst of something that they can't stand. It sounds like you wake up every day and you're like, this is amazing.
Yeah, there's definitely a little bit of that. It's definitely the dream job. Like it's definitely a dream job. I can't complain. It's a lot of work. I'm working weekends a lot. I'm doing a lot of tough things, but at the end of the day, I'm not complaining. I'm having a blast, and I cannot believe like when I got hired 2010, we'd be talking here like what is it? 11 years later, we just had, Endgame that used to be the number one movie of all time, just got dethroned.
Yeah. by a few bucks.
I know, but yeah, and then now we're even beyond Endgame. I'm working on my almost 30th film at Marvel Studios, so it's nuts. It's nuts.
Look at that, man. And you look young as hell, so I don't know how you've been doing 30 films for everything.
It's the Asian blood.
Is that what it is? Give me some of that. Take my age down.
Yes, black don't crack, yellow don't mellow.
There you go.
What happens to white people? We just get old and die? Is that it?
Fade away.
You didn't tell us that part at the beginning. It sounded so good. Andy, you're doing the Lord's work and you're doing beautiful, beautiful stuff. I'm going to guess, and Andy didn't say this at all, so if you're an internet site, don't pick this up and run with it. But I bet you we're looking at a man who has probably drawn both Dr. Doom and Galactus at one point or another, because we know they're in our future, ladies and gentlemen. I can't wait to see what the unseen heroes and villains look like, man. And hopefully we become super tight, and I become one of those friends that you show your phone to. Do you ever show your friend, like you can't text it or email it, but are you ever in person with somebody and like show them on your phone?
Nope, I don't.
Look at you. You're a good kid, man. I would.
It's more fear than anything.
True, yeah. It's true.
I'm sure that not everybody survived the Marvel Viz Dev department because the drone strikes have taken out some offenders.
It'd be so hard not to be like, look at this. Nobody's here. Look at this. And just show them what you got on your phone. Oh my God.
That's scary. That's scary.
You are doing amazing work, sir. Continued success. Thank you for coming on and hanging out with us.
Thank you so much. Like I said in the beginning, I'm a big fan of both of you, and thank you so much for having me on your show. I appreciate it.
Thank you,
Big
Andy.
fan of you, man. One piece of advice you want to pass on for kids that want to do what you're doing. How do they do it?
It's really pursuing your passion. It's putting in the hard work. So if you want to become an artist, it is really building up your portfolio. So trying to find the specific areas that you want to pursue, and then doing your research, figuring out what the people that you admire, how they got there, what they did to get there. And it's really putting in the work, because a lot of people say they have passion, but then, there's no proof in the pudding. Then the month goes by and they still haven't done anything about it. You got to question that. So you got to put in the work, and do your due diligence, and good things will happen.
Wise words. Everybody give it up for Andy Park. Andy, thank you for coming on Fat Man Beyond. Thank you, more importantly, for that beautiful costume. Scarlet Witch is dignified as well. Like when she first appeared on WandaVision, it no longer means anything for me to say I cried, but I was definitely crying. And I remember turning to my wife and I was like, this is going to be embarrassing. But I turned to my wife because I was in the bed and I was bawling as I saw her in the outfit for the first time. And I went, she looks like a Disney princess. So you made a 50-year-old man say that to a woman who probably looked at him and was like, I'm never going to fuck you again. That was the most embarrassing thing you've ever said. Thank you for that magical moment.
I appreciate it. Thank you for telling me that story. I can retire now.
Yeah. Where can people find you on the internet, Andy?
Yeah, how can they track you down?
I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube on at Andy Park Art. Andy Park Art.
And tomorrow he's going to put up some Scarlet Witch early art. You're going to get to see his designs, man. So check him out. Andy, continued success, man. Tell everyone, everyone, when you go to work, I guess it's on Zoom lately and shit. But next time you go into the office, when they let us get back to work and shit, tell everyone, I'm sure they know because the show, we say it almost every time. We're huge fans of what they're doing over there. You guys are doing the Lord's work. Keep fucking doing it. Keep doing it. Keep making these fucking drawings and making these movies until I drop dead. Then after that, do what you want. But I need this shit. I need it, Andy.
Will do. Thank you so much.
Give it up for Andy, everybody. See you later, Andy.
See ya. Bye. God,
he was fucking great, man. More of that, man. More guests all the time.
Yes, please.
You know what I'm saying? Like people, like it's so like it's one thing to hear about from a director, which was amazing having Matt on, but hearing like this position in particular, like it's a relatively new position in the movie business. Now, some people will be like, they've been doing storyboards for years. Yeah, do you know what fucking storyboards look like? Little fucking sketches, pencil sketches, drawings and shit. Having a whole division that envisions the movie, like long before it gets made, and again, it's not like, hey, we're going to show the director what this character looks like. Stan and Jack and all of Marvel did that years ago. So nobody's coming into this job going, I want to reinvent it. Or if they are, they're going to lose that job. So to have somebody who's just like, I'm going to take these concepts and bring them into the real world, make them work in a goddamn movie, man. It's everything.
Yeah. I mean, and it's like the one concept illustrator, well, a couple, but like Ralph McQuarrie was the first one that I was ever really familiar with, and it's somewhat of a similar job because it's like I've got to somehow realize this idea. But what Andy and his team are doing are taking a thing that already exists and reinterpreting it. It's how does this particular concept, how does this character, how does this idea work in the real world when it only ever worked in 2 dimensions? And that's a different job. And I think it's a different trick to have to do. So yeah, power to them and power to Marvel for just saying, we got to staff up, give everybody a job, keep them on staff. When you have talent, you lock them down. And this is how we do that.
That's how those movies stay as good as they are. You always wonder, we sat there going like, well, all right, the Eternals is a bridge too far. But we know we're going to fucking fall in love with it and shit. And it's because these cats keep their eye on the ball, man. They're just not afraid to make it better. I think Shackman or somebody was saying like, if they can make it like 1% better, they'll do it.
Right.
Like it's all about the most optimum, best version of the story that they could fucking tell, man. They don't stop. They don't rest on their laurels, and they don't give you a sequel. Like they'll sequelize, but it's not like, hey, it's like Rocky 2. It's like Rocky, but he fights again. Every time they step up, like lately, it's been pushing the story even further and further away. Like, I'll never forget that moment at the end of fucking Spider-Man Far From Home, where you're like, right on, I know where this shit's going. He's going to be a senior next year, and maybe they'll do the prom or senior trip or some such shit like that. And all of a sudden, they're like, he's unmasked, and everybody knows who the fuck he is. You're like, what the heck? What happened? There goes my senior year and shit.
Didn't see that coming.
Not at all, man. They're quite like Quicksilver. We don't see a lot of what's coming with them. So,
indeed,
so happy. How did we get Andy? How did that happen? Was that you?
Yeah, Andy reached out to me. He was like, "Hey, man, I'm a big fan of the show, and wanted to thank you again for having Matt on. And Matt said some lovely things. And like, if you ever wanted to talk, like, I'm here." I was like, "Well, yes, talk now."
Yeah. Oh my God. Come tell us everything. You know when I said like the words Dr. Doom and Galactus, then Andy was like, "Shut up, shut up."
No, not in front of the children.
He's probably someone on that team is probably taking a crack at Dr. Doom by now.
Probably.
I just wanted to jump in. Anybody who's watching, Andy's socials are in the YouTube description if you want to follow him and see more of his artwork like we had on the show. And also a lot of...
How nice was that? Did he give you all that artwork?
Yeah, he sent that all yesterday. And then just a couple things from chat. A lot of people said that this was our best guest ever. No disrespect to any of our other guests, but people loved it. And
that's fucking dope, man. Thank you for that. Well, thank you on behalf of Andy.
Ardenex said he's able to explain it in a way that I understand because I'm not in the industry. He is so good at his job and at communicating. So I thought that was pretty cool.
That's high fucking praise right there, man. Like, not only is that he's a classy guy, but that's a classy fucking compliment. That makes us look good. Our fan base makes us look good, Mark.
It does. I mean, we talked about it, I think, after we had Matt Shackman on. And we were like, we could do more guests. And like, yeah, we can probably get movie stars or actors or whatever, because they're all doing PR rounds. But getting like the people who make this stuff, the people who don't get that sort of like, Seth Meyers shine, to come on and spend an hour with us just talking about the craft and the job and how they interpret it and how they attack it. Like, that's, to me, way more interesting. Not that a shiny actor talking about their role isn't interesting, but nobody's talking to these guys, and they've all got amazing stories to tell. And that feels, both good content, quote unquote, but also important. Like, let's let people who make the stuff tell us how they make it.
Telling you, man, Marvel makes us happy, when they put out their movies, but they also make us happy behind the scenes. So it's the new Disney. The happiest place on earth is fucking Marvel. All right, so we don't have a new show to talk about, but I believe next week we will definitely have a new show to talk about, and that being Zack Snyder's Justice League. And then after that, it sounds like Falcon and the Winter Soldier will be our run for about 6 episodes and stuff. Yeah. But today, Andy took the place of what we've been doing historically since WandaVision began, which is like doing deep dives on the episodes. We don't have any of those, but we'll tell you what we do have. News, God damn it. We got news.
We got some news.
That's right.
News. News.
That was completely unrehearsed, kids. I know it looked like we were, working with choreographers, but that right off the top of our heads. Marc Bernardin, I saw a piece last week where somebody was like, look, I like Matt Shackman, but they didn't do the fucking news, and I show up for the news. So to that one person, I apologize. Marc Bernardin always brings us the news, and this week he's got a fucking 2 fistfuls of news, I imagine. Here's Mark with the news. Mark, what's going on?
We have some news. The one leftover, the holdover from last week that we didn't get to cover, is that, as I think we all might have expected, despite the increased rate of vaccinations amongst the American populace and the lowering of infection rates and all that stuff, there is still not going to be a Comic-Con in San Diego this summer. There may be some, according to the press release, some kind of in-person event in November on a much smaller scale, but the Comic-Con that we all know and love, the upwards of 200,000 people descending on San Diego's Gaslamp District, will not happen again until 2022.
Now, I'm not questioning science, Mark. I wear 2 masks, so I'm fine with this decision because it sounds like somebody responsible made it. But what do you think that's predicated on? Because they're like, look, even if we get to come back in July, it's going to be like quarter or half capacity, and any fucking gathering of even if it was half capacity, you're talking about 100,000 people. Even at a quarter capacity, you're talking about 50,000 people and stuff.
Yeah.
So I guess it's just them being responsible.
I think so too. I think, especially after the president's address saying that, like, if we do all of the right stuff, if we continue social distance and wear our masks and get vaccinated when we can, we may be able to have small family gatherings for the 4th of July, a backyard barbecue. And that is a far cry from, the sweaty masses descending upon a tiny city. And like, we've all walked those halls. We have all seen pictures of what it looks like. And that is no way to insulate yourself from a virus. So I think
sadly, it would be a super spreader event instantly.
Yeah. The superest of super spreaders. It would be worse than your average, sporting event if you packed the halls, of a stadium. So
that would be the headlines in all the papers, the hacky headlines. Super dash spreader, Comic-Con kills. No heroes, only villains. Shit like that.
For sure.
Well, it's a bummer. 2 years in a fucking row, man. That's gonna be weird, but that just means when we do go back, it's gonna be a party, kids. It's gonna be a massive fucking party. Let me tell you something. Personally, when they said we're not doing San Diego Comic-Con this year, I was sad, but then I was happy because I was like, that means next year I'll be able to fill Hall H because people will not have seen me for 2 years. They'll be like, I'm desperate to see anybody, even this fucking idiot. So that's good for me, Mark. I always have to look at how it's going to affect me.
Absence make the heart grow fonder. So yes. And the wallet's a little looser.
We will miss Comic-Con this year in person, but once again, they're going to do it online. And we have started conversations with the good folks at Netflix about our Comic-Con online Motu panel.
Ooh,
yes.
Interesting.
Because just like Comic-Con, Motu is coming. And just like Comic-Con, you can watch it on your TV. You ain't got to go to it. It's coming to you.
Whether you want it or not.
I think I said it before, but Bear McCreary just crushing on the score. And I heard the score for Mark's whole episode, which is beautiful. And then I heard 4 and 5 as well. Like, this dude is doing stellar work. Jeff's kiss, as we say on the show.
Jeff's kiss.
Thanks to somebody who misunderstood us 3 weeks ago. Yes, Jeff's kiss. And the t-shirts are coming, kids. Trust me. But yes, Jeff's kiss indeed. On to the news. Indeed.
On to the further newest of new news. You know how these giant studios, conglomerates, massive companies will always have sort of, they call them investor calls, where it'll be, hey, everybody who's got, massive shares of stock in our company, come and listen to us tell you what's happening and what's basically what you're buying with your massive investment. And so AT&T had one of those investor calls. We had one last year when Disney just like unzipped their fly and showed us, months and months and months of Star Wars content, Marvel content, and what have you. So AT&T, part of their big presentation is, look at all of the DC stuff that's coming down the pike. We knew most of it, except for one thing, that they're making a Zatanna TV show.
I heard this on Twitter this week. Sorry. I read something because Zatanna was trending. Mm-hmm. And as a longtime fan, I was like, why? Apparently they're doing a whole fucking show. That's a no-brainer to me.
Yeah.
Lady Magician, the most powerful magician in the DC universe, like, done and done. Is that all the shows that they're doing?
That is their entire slate of both movies and TV.
All right, so let's go through this, man. Black Adam is at the top. We knew that was coming. Harley Quinn exists. Superman and Lois. Static Shock we know is coming. Mm-hmm. Blue Beetle we just found about last week and stuff. Batgirl is a new thing, correct?
I mean, it's a new thing that's also an old thing. Like, there had been a version of Batgirl that Joss Whedon was going to do at some point before he dropped out, and they had brought a new writer on. I think Christina Hobson, who had done Bumblebee, had been engaged to do Batgirl. But I think now that it's legit on a schedule, quote unquote, it is more firm than it had been before.
But no, they haven't said who's in charge or who's doing it yet, have they?
No more details beyond here it is up on a screen.
What, JC, throw that chart back up again just so we can finish it off. Peacemaker, we know they're in production on that already, and that's coming relatively soon after Suicide Squad happens on HBO Max. Green Lantern, they announced that for HBO Max. We knew that. Aquaman 2, we knew was coming. There's the Flash symbol, which I guess is for the movie Flash, correct?
Correct.
Teen Titans Go, Suicide Squad, which we knew was coming. Bat Wheels is the kids' show about all the vehicles that hang out as buddies. The Batman, that's Matt Reeves' movie. We can't wait to see. There's Zatanna. What's next to that? Is that Super? What is
That's
that?
Supergirl.
Oh, because this is their final season of Supergirl. Absolutely.
Right.
Shazam sequel's up there. What's next to Shazam?
That's Batwoman.
Oh, I can't see the font. And that's happening already. What's under us in the corner? Because I saw us and I was like, we're on the slate. This is amazing on the screen.
It's interesting because there's 2 Suicide Squads up here.
Oh, well, the Suicide Squad is James Gunn's movie.
Right.
So I wonder what Suicide Squad is. Are they doing a cartoon?
I'm not entirely sure. I mean, the 2 separate logos is slightly confusing, but maybe it's a cartoon, maybe it's a live action show. I mean, then again, Peacemaker is also a live action spinoff from Suicide Squad. So maybe Suicide Squad is the gift that will keep on giving for a long time to HBO Max.
It's currently their Avengers, more or less.
Yeah.
The GCPD was the show that's the spinoff of Matt Reeves, correct?
Correct.
And what were the other 3? I'm sorry, JC, bring it back.
DMZ.
Is that the Rosario Dawson thing?
That's the Rosario Dawson thing, directed by Ava DuVernay.
Ava's doing that. What is Gotham Knights?
Gotham Knights is a video game, I believe. Unless they're also spinning that into a series. But I think it was very much kind of like proto Birds of Prey in a way.
Superhero High, we heard about that. And then the Super Pets kind of speaks for itself. So that's kind of exciting. There's some cool stuff to look forward to there.
There's some cool stuff. And like a Zatanna show mated with the news that we're getting a Constantine show.
That's not up on the board though.
That is not up on the board, which is odd given that we knew it was coming.
JC, get rid of that board. Fuck that board. We're done with that board. Yeah, we want to see us.
But there's definitely the version of, they're building out the Justice League Dark in a real way. And you get Zatanna, you get Constantine, I'm sure that there's a couple, 2, 3 more kind of in deep development over at Bad Robot.
You'd probably want Swamp Thing in the mix as well.
Potentially. You could get the Demon in there if you wanted the Demon.
Gone, the form of man, rise, the form of Etrigan.
Yes.
The alternate suicide chat is saying is a video game done by the people who did the Arkham series.
Yes, that's right. The one that for a while people thought Bizarro was going to be the villain because it was a image of Superman, but he's just the target. But yes, it's a video game. That makes sense.
Right. Gotcha.
Boy, they got a full slate. They got a lot of cool stuff. I like they're doing the Marvel thing about putting up all their this is everything we're doing. Here's all our squares.
Look at it.
Excited. Yeah. I'm in. I'll watch it all. Even Super Pets, even the Bat Wheels. I'll probably watch that too.
There will be another night you need to fill 4 hours on HBO Max. Here you go. Nothing's ever gonna fill. I'm telling you, bro. Watching that from Friday at 1 a.m. till 5 a.m. Like I honestly thought I was like, I'll fucking watch an hour and go to sleep. I was riveted. And it's so vastly different from a Marvel movie, and then not to lower one and raise the other and stuff. They're just 2 completely different beasts. But Marvel movies feel like absolute movies to me. Whereas this felt like for lack of a better description, this felt like a film. Zack Snyder's Justice League felt like a 4-hour film, a meditation on superheroes and superheroics. I can't wait for you to watch it because I want to hear what you have to think. Yeah,
it's coming soon, kids. It's coming on Thursday.
March 18th.
You're gonna be able to leave 4 hours aside for the Snyder Cut. I feel bad for HBO Max, man. They might crash. Everyone's gonna hit them so fucking hard as of midnight. That Twitter fucking handle, all the Twitter fans. Oh my God. All right, what else we got?
There's some movement, pardon the pun, in the Flash casting, in that the Flash is losing a dad and gaining a mom. Billy Crudup is dropping out of the movie that is being directed by Andy Muschietti because of shooting conflicts with The Morning Show, the Apple TV Plus show that he's already on. And there's been no replacement for him so far, but they're adding Barry Allen's mother, who, to a certain degree, may or may not make it that far into said movie.
If they are indeed doing Flashpoint, she's a main character.
Right.
In Flashpoint, of course, most of us know this, but for those that don't, Flashpoint is a story of Barry Allen, the Flash, whose mom had been killed when he was a kid, and maybe by his dad, but really it was by the backwards Flash, Professor Zoom. I don't know if he was Eobard Thawne in the comics or not. I forget which one. But regardless, his mom was dead, and then one day Barry in the storyline that Jeff Johns wrote, decided, why don't I just go back and save her? I have the ability to do this, so I'm gonna go save my mom. And he does, and it destroys the fucking universe. Everything gets incredibly fucked up. So if they are doing that storyline as they've intimated, or it's been intimated online, hiring a mom is absolutely essential. I'm nobody's career agent or coach, but can't believe that fucking Crudup wasn't like, you know what? Make it work. That's a good gig, man. But obviously him playing Barry's dad in Justice League for Zach made sense because him and Zach had worked together on Watchmen. He was the original Dr. Manhattan. So maybe, his loyalties were more with Zach, and he was like, look, I got my other show, so you guys find another Flash. I would just like to put out there that if they want a somewhat youthful looking dad for the Flash, one who dresses like a 12-year-old professionally, I've acted in movies, Mark. I'm also an actor.
I've
essayed the role of Silent Bob for many years, but I could also speak dialogue as needed. Here's my audition. Barry, slow down. There you go. How come I can't have that fucking part, man? I'm crewed up good. Who's the mom?
Barry.
Did they? Yes, that would be my version. Sit, Barry, sit. Who did they cast as mom? Did they say?
Yes, a woman named Maribel Verdú, who was in Y Tu Mama Tambien and Pan's Labyrinth, is playing Barry's mom. And as you said, Kiersey Clemons has locked in her deal to come back as Iris West.
That's good for her. I'm sure, she got cut out of Justice League originally and stuff. So I'm sure she was like, well, I guess it's all over. And now somebody called her up and they were like, no, you're in. Let's go.
Not so much. Let's go to work.
It's good news. Good for her.
Indeed. Speaking of casting, the live action Powerpuff Girls pilot at the CW has announced their cast. It's 3 leads.
I saw this. Ooh, and we got pictures of them. What are their names?
Pictures and everything. Chloe Bennett from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has been cast as Blossom. Dove or Dove Cameron, I'm not sure, has been cast as Buttercup. And let's see, Yana Perot has been cast as blah, 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 blah. Buttercup, yes.
The one girl who's playing Bubbles, she was a Disney kid, right? The Dove girl?
Yeah. She was on Livin' Maddie and The Descendants.
And I think she has a recording career, if I remember correctly, or something like that. One of those Disney kids who sings. Maybe I'm wrong. The Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I've met Chloe and talked to her and interviewed her and stuff like that. And who's the third girl? Where's she come from? I don't recognize.
She's a Broadway kid. She was in the Alanis Morissette musical, Jagged Little Pill.
Right on.
And she was set to join the cast of Hamilton before the pandemic shut down Broadway.
Oh, so she was going to work in the actual Hamilton, not like some filmed version. Ooh.
Yeah. So, but this I think will be her big live action screen debut.
Could you imagine, hey man, you're going to be in Hamilton. You're like, oh my God, I'm a Broadway person. That means the world. And they're like, sorry, Broadway shut down, but we got something else for you.
Hold tight.
Did you ever think about being a Powerpuff Girl? I look forward to watching the show, at least giving it a try. It seems funny to me. I'm in.
Yeah, I'm in as well. And then there was a little tiny adjunct story that broke this week that Craig McCracken, who's a creator of the original Cartoon Network Powerpuff Girls, said that he had pitched an idea to Warner Brothers for a crossover episode where the Joker came to the city of Townsville. according to him on Twitter, says, I wanted to do a PPG episode with a Joker. The animated series version came to Townsville, and the mayor was so star-struck with a famous villain in town that he wouldn't let the girls stop him. But Warner Brothers said no when we asked.
Why?
I don't know.
Aren't they all owned by the same company?
Yeah. Like, that would have been so fucking cool.
And if they were doing the animated series, they would have had Mark Hamill doing the voice. They would have had our Joker.
I'm sure that's exactly what Craig McCracken wanted, and Warner Brothers had to piss on his parade.
I love the Powerpuff Girls. My kid was in the sweet spot for appreciation of Powerpuff Girls growing up. She still has Powerpuff Girls artwork, original artwork in her bedroom and stuff hanging on the wall. But one of my favorite fucking Powerpuff Girl moments in the world was in the Powerpuff Girls movie, where they're being forced to recite the alphabet, and like shit's going wrong for them all the time. The teacher's like, hey, give us the alphabet. And they're like, A, B, C, D, E, and then the roof collapses on them or something like that. And then afterwards they go, F. It's a pretty tight joke, man. In a fucking
That's a
kid's
solid
movie.
joke.
It's a really solid joke. That Craig McCracken kid, he was all talent and still is and stuff. He did that other, what was it, the Home for Wayward Monsters or whatever the fuck it was called.
Yeah, Dr. Foster's or Foster's Home for Imaginary somethings.
Well done. Almost. Between the two of us, we got close.
We got there. We got there.
But what a missed opportunity is
so much fun. Like that's the thing that you hope you'd be able to do under the sort of corporate shingle of Warner Brothers.
I got an idea. We use the power of social media and fucking release the McCracken cut.
Release the McCracken!
Yes. I like your draft better than mine. You win. Release the McCracken. What else we got?
Disneyland is back, baby.
Finally, man. I got one of them kids that lives for fucking Disneyland and shit. Every month she's been like, any word, because she's in Dallas. I'm like, no. And if you really want to go to a Disney, fucking Florida's open. Go there and shit. But she, my kid grew up mostly out in Los Angeles. And from a young age, she was a Disney kid. We had season passes. I would bring her all the time. I spent an inordinate amount of time at Disneyland, like as an adult. And that was fine by me because that's right up my alley and shit. But she, at a certain point, it's kind of sad to admit, it's real cats in the cradle. But at a certain point, like after I'd been to Disney like fucking 30 times, I was just like, well, why don't you go with Nan and Pop and stuff like that. Kid never lost her interest in it. I guess I just got old and fat and I didn't want to walk around a theme park and shit like that. But the kid just, to this day, it's like, her literal happy place. Like it is the happiest place. She buys all the marketing and shit as well as all the toys, but she don't get to buy the season pass no more. They did away with it.
I know. I mean, I'm sure there will be some other version for them to take a giant chunk of money from you at once. But I think they're modulating it so that they can just take more money from you.
I'm in no rush to go back, although I did not get to see Star Wars Land yet.
Me neither.
But I'll tell you right now, if they announce that Avengers Campus is open, you can't keep me from that place. I'll be there in a heartbeat, man.
Well, on July 20, it was supposed to be July 2020. It's now set to open later this year. The park itself will start welcoming guests in late April. So it seems like they spent a shit ton of money building that stuff. They're not going to let you in.
That means we're going to be able to walk the Avengers Campus probably by the end of the year. JC's on. What do you want, JC? Or he's not on. He's muted.
Do you think all three of us should go down and
just hold that thought right there, because I think all three of us should always go down, my friend.
But
thank you.
I could live stream the whole thing from my phone. So we could do like a Fat Man Beyond visit Galaxy's Edge and Avengers Campus.
I'm so down for that. B, they'll let us live stream in the park?
We did it for Scum and Villainy when they opened the new Galaxy's Edge trading post at Downtown Disney a couple weeks back. So, I mean, maybe, right? What if we just say, we're taking home movies?
I'm in.
Fatland Beyond the Cantina.
I'm in. Ooh, yeah, road trip. I'm all
Yes.
for it, man. You make it happen. I'll fucking come out and
I'll
tell
see
you what I
what we can
think.
do. That'd be fun.
That'd be very fun.
When it reopens in April, it'll be at 15% capacity and for California residents only, with no indoor dining and limits on indoor rides. As the COVID rates continue to drop, theme park capacity will rise to 25%, then 35%. Then at some point, they will just start rolling back all of those restrictions.
I might have to change my vote, Mark, because at 15%, that's the way to go to Disneyland. Like,
I mean, I'm
you
sure
want
it'll cost us 4 times as much, but
worth it. Take all my money. Just let me go on the rides more than once and let me do them all. This would be the way to go to Galaxy's Edge.
I
Pay
think
the
so.
premium and fucking deal with only 15% of the crowd.
That'd be badass. We'll do it.
JC Bamf back in. Show that special effect. There's the money. There's the budget. That's the HBO Max money right there. You went to Galaxy's Edge, correct?
I have been several times.
So by the indication, several indicates that you enjoyed it the first time, correct?
It's really, really cool. I mean, you guys have to go. Seeing the Millennium Falcon and walking on the Millennium Falcon, and it's,
What's that like?
well, okay. Mark, going on the Millennium Falcon and having it wrap around you, it's not just like a set that's one wall. It's 360, and then you walk in. It's so crazy. It's really, really, like, mind-blowing.
I really kicked myself when the quarantine went into full effect, where I was like, I can't believe I'm locked out of it, and I didn't fucking rush to go. I just, took it for granted. I was like, well, it's just open. It'll be there, and I'll go when things calm down. And then things never calmed down. They got very excitable, and Disneyland went away.
I think we said that like every week for a month and a half on the podcast. Like, we'll go when the crowds die down.
Be careful what you wish for, Mark, because the crowds did calm down just far too much.
Far too much.
What else we got?
Our last story for the evening is my favorite story of the week. Is that your friend and mine, Elizabeth Banks, is set to make her directorial follow-up to Charlie's Angels with a new thriller for Universal. This movie will be called Cocaine Bear.
Excellent title. I'm in. I'm buying a ticket. I don't even know the story. I do know the story. I've heard about it online.
Yes, but it turns out that the title is a literal description of an actual event, which is during a drug run from Colombia, a narcotics officer turned smuggler dumped 40 kilos of cocaine over Chattahoochee National Forest, where the entire haul was devoured by a bear. The body was found by the authorities, who declared the cause of death as perhaps the single biggest drug overdose in recorded history. Naturally, the locals dubbed him Pablo Escobar. And his body was stuffed.
I didn't know that. That should be the name of the movie.
Pablo Escobar.
That's adorable. Pablo Escobar. But let's be honest, Cocaine Bear is a fucking hot title.
It's an amazing title. And
it's a snakes on a plane level title.
For sure. And so if Elizabeth Banks can make a comedy that earns the title Cocaine Bear, which who the fuck knows what the Cocaine Bear was up to after it ingested that much coke and before it died of an overdose. Gold.
I'm sure the PETA and ASPCA people are going to be very happy about this motion picture.
I'm sure they will have nothing to worry about. It'll be completely fair.
Don't bring your kids and confuse this with Winnie the Pooh, ladies and gentlemen. Winnie the Pooh is an addict of honey.
Yes.
This bear apparently it's down for the white.
Yogi Bear really likes picnic baskets.
Yeah.
Cocaine Bear likes something else entirely.
He'll cut or kill Ranger Smith for that picnic basket. There'll be a serious boo-boo, and it'll be a murder in Jellystone Park. That
is all the news we have, my friend.
All the news that's fit to print. Give it up for Marc Bernardin. He brought you the goddamn fucking news. After no news last week, all news this week, man.
Indeed.
JC, come join us and tell us, is there anybody that wants to know anything? I didn't get a chance to follow along on the chat this week and stuff. And I noticed sometimes people like that. Some people like me reading the chat, but some people like, stop reading fucking chat and shit like that. So there's been no chat. So I don't know what the tenor of the room was, other than the fact that JC told us that the cats, everyone liked Andy and thought he was a great guest. How has chat been, JC?
Chat's been great. Haven't had to block or delete any comments today, which I know now that I say that it's going to be horrible. But
yeah, here
so
it
far,
comes.
so
Trump. Here comes Trump 2024 because you opened your fucking mouth.
Yeah, way to go. Here's the Klan.
What questions you got for us, sir? You picked one of three yet?
Let's see. Caped Madman wanted to know what is the greatest non-superhero comic book movie that hasn't been made yet? Non-superhero, non-DC Marvel. What's the greatest comic book movie that has yet to be made?
Mage, the hero discovered by Matt Wagner. It's the update of the Arthurian legend. Yes, Kevin Matchstick finds out that he is the Pendragon reincarnated. He hangs out with a wizard, a Merlin offshoot, whose name escapes me. Do you remember the name of the wizard? Merv, I think it is. It might be Merv. And then the Lady of the Lake, the girl who holds his bat, her name escapes me as well. It's been a while since I read it. And I remember they're all fighting the Umbra Sprite. And I remember like the final issue is he has to climb the tower to fight the Umbra Sprite and stuff. It is so absolutely wonderful. And I spoiled it the way I laid it out there. I'm like, he's the Pendragon. You read Mage by Matt Wagner, and you didn't know what was going on until that one issue where Merv was finally like, you are the fucking Pendragon. It was so goddamn metal and shit. But it was called The Hero Discovered, Mage, The Hero Discovered. Then he did sequels like Mage, The Hero Defined and stuff like that. But Mage, I can't believe it still hasn't been done. Came close a few times, but it still hasn't been done. One of the best non-Marvel, non-DC comic books that can be brought to life. Second, close second, and this is a personal fave, but I doubt anyone's thinking about making this, but they fucking should, would be Grimjack, which was a first comic that was written by John Ostrander, who created the Suicide Squad with Kim Yale, and one of the greatest fucking comic books I've ever read in my life, about John Gaunt, our hero, Grimjack, who owns a interdimensional bar in the city of Sinishur, which merges and links up with any place in the world over time. It's just constantly in dimensional shift. So sometimes New York was right next to Sinishur, and sometimes Gotham, for lack of a better description, would be next to Sinishur. And it was a story of a mercenary, like, easy to do TV, very episodic and stuff. But I have stolen from that storyline so many times, most memorably on my Green Arrow run of Quiver. In that storyline, Ollie Queen, spoilers, dies and eventually goes to heaven and stuff, and finds himself there because he's already died. And his dead earlier version of himself is like, I'm not going back. There's no way I'm going back to Earth. This is fucking amazing. I like it here. And he has to make the choice to leave paradise to save his friends, because somebody's reanimated his corpse and is killing all of his friends. So he has to, because he loves his friends so much. I love this book. He leaves heaven. And I just stole that for Green Arrow. Because I can't think of a more noble thing for a hero to do. It's like, you've earned your just reward. This is your eternal reward. And yet to make the choice to leave fucking paradise behind on behalf of the living when it's not your problem anymore. I love that note. I will play that note in every fucking song I possibly can, man. And I got it from Grimjack. So I'd love to see that be a series one day. Mark?
Two things come to mind. I think much of Ed Brubaker's Image comic work, especially Criminal, and the books that sort of his kind of crime opera initiative is all just so good. It's so ripe for adaptation. He's writing our modern noir on comic book form in a way that few people have done and have been able to do as well. The work that he does with Sean Phillips, I think would be great. But I think the one that still surprises me that hasn't been done is Art Spiegelman's Mouse.
Yeah, very true.
I feel like it's an impenetrable, bulletproof, undeniable classic of the form. It's incredibly emotional and heartfelt, and to be able to sort of recontextualize the story of the Holocaust using cats and mice, make it the sort of thing that you could use that to teach children about that level of intolerance in a way that isn't quite as frightening, I think, as say Schindler's List is, but still carries all of the power. And I think a really smart animated version of that story would not just do well, but be very, very important. And I don't know why it hasn't been done. I don't know if it's an Art Spiegelman doesn't want it to be adapted, or if the powers that be don't think there's money to be made in it. I'm not sure, but I think it's sitting there just waiting to win somebody a bunch of awards. And more than that, do a mitzvah for the world. So Mouse.
Excellent poll. Fuck, that was a great poll, man. All right, there's one down. JC, bam, back in here and give us some more.
Okay. If you guys had Wanda's powers, who would you bring back for a moment to watch TV with, and what TV show would you watch?
My dad, and I'd watch Bowling for Dollars like I did when I was a kid. He would lay in front of the TV, a big old box TV set, picture tube, console TV set. When TV was a piece of the furniture, kids, like, and your parents went out of the, oh, this is a nice TV. We can only put nice things on the TV, like a scale can go on top of a doily. And on the weekends, I was made to dust the TV and stuff. It was a central figure in our feng shui of our living room. So my father would lay on the floor, looking at the TV, like, this, like laying back, watching the TV like that. And I would, this is going to sound dirtier than I meant it, I would T-bone my dad. I would lay the other way. So he's this way and I would lay this way with my head on his stomach, and I'd watch the Bowling for Dollars show as a kid, which is, not a show. It's literally bowling on TV and shit. If I had the Mind Stone, yeah, I would do that again. When I went into the hospital in Philadelphia, where my old man, he had a massive heart attack. I was at the Wizard World Con in Philly, and I'd done like a Q&A show, and my mom and my dad and my brother and my sister were all in town, and so they all came to the show and stuff. And then we went out to eat, and my wife was with me, Jennifer, and my sister's husband, Eric, was there. My brother's husband, Jerry, was not there. He was the only one missing. But we had a great night sitting around bullshitting, talking, fucking like, 3 kids trying to make their parents laugh. And you could tell my parents was just like, we did some fucking shit. Look, we raised a goddamn family, and they all turned out fucking okay. And they're all got love in their lives and shit like that. And the old man was eating like fucking filet mignon and sneaking cheesecake and drinking Manhattans and stuff like that. Great night. Fantastic night. And kissed him on the head and put him in a cab with mom and my sister. And he went back to the apartment that he was staying with my sister, because she was in town for like a month to work on some stuff with her kids and stuff, because she normally lives overseas. And the next morning I got the phone call from my brother, like, you got to get down to the hospital. And I was like, oh, why? And he's like, Dad's in the hospital. And Dad was always in the hospital. He's always in poor health. He was diabetic and stuff. But Donald was like, no, get down here now. And I went to the hospital on, I think it's Cedar or Oak is one of the tree names in the Philadelphia area, and went to the emergency room and walked in and saw something that still chills me to this day. My mother, like, praying desperately. I'd seen my mother pray my whole life. We're raised Catholic and shit like that. But I never seen my mom like pray as if there was like a gun to her head. Like, she was like, oh God, Jesus, please, no, don't do this. Jesus, please, God, like, just like fucking out loud and passionate and urgent. Didn't matter. She was not going like, people might hear this. She didn't give a fuck. She was just, nobody else was in the world except her and, my dad, who was in the emergency room. And so I see my brother when my mom is saying all this, and I looked at my brother because my mom's looking in the other direction. And we make eye contact, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Dad's always in the hospital. And it never occurred to me that Dad was in the hospital but wasn't in the hospital anymore. You know, I just didn't think my old man he was always sick, but never seemed like he was dying. And my brother just shook his head like this and shit. And I fucking went to the desk and I was like, Donald Smith? And they were like, come back with us. And they brought me into a room. And my dad was like lying on the stretcher and just like still as a fucking raincoat. Like there was no life there whatsoever. He was still intubated, had the tube in his mouth and shit from there trying to save his life. But there he was, just motionless, like dead. And I'd never, of course, seen my father dead before. But I was, this was 18 years ago or something like that. So I was in my early 30s and stuff. But I knew this was my absolute last opportunity in the world. I'm gonna try to get through this without breaking down, kids. But they left me alone with him and he was laid out. And for the last time ever in this world, and probably, you know, vastly inappropriate at age 30 something, I put my head on my dad's stomach. And it certainly wasn't the same because A, there's no bowling for dollars, and B, he was fucking pretty dead. So given the chance to bring somebody back, I'd bring back my old man and watch TV with him. I'm sure he'd be like, why the fuck are you wasting this minute watching Bowling for Dollars? And I'm like, because I'm sentimental, Dad. And he'll be like, oh my God, I fucked up as a father. But yes, I'd bring him back. And that's why if you've not seen the Pixar movie Onward, did you see it yet, Mark?
Oh yeah, no, we talked about it.
That the end of the movie destroyed me. Still does. Even thinking about it, I'm getting like real emotional and having to push it down. So fucking beautiful. There's something about, you know, they say fathers and daughters and stuff like that. But like, you know, I didn't have a son, so I don't know what the father and son thing was, but I was a son. And I know there's fucking connective tissue like that. And so watching Onward, I was just like a fucking mess. Who would you bring back? Don't say like Elvis or some shit. I just gave a really great answer.
I know. There's no way to top that, so I can't. And also I'm lucky enough to have both of my parents.
You're blessed, my friend. Blessed.
Yeah. My wife lost her mother when she was 15, I think, in a car accident. And so I've never got to meet her. I've never met my wife's mother, my mother-in-law. You know, my kids have never met, you know, that grandparent. So I think I'd bring her back, you know, because I would like to know who she is, what she's like, what she wanted for her kids.
Also a huge gift to your mom.
A huge gift to my mom. And I don't know what she'd like to watch. I'd let her choose, you know, because ultimately it doesn't matter what you're watching. What you're watching is the excuse to sit there sometimes, most of the time, in silence with somebody. And so let her choose whatever she wants to watch. I don't care. Like, I just kind of want to be there.
That's beautiful. That reminds me of the Luther Vandross song, Dance with My Father. Where, I can't even say it out loud without getting real fucking emotional. I love that song. We got to move on to something else before I start crying. God damn it. JC, bamf in here and fucking get us out of this emotional mess.
I won't share mine then.
No, go ahead. You have to do yours.
When my mom had brain cancer 4 years ago. And I'm going to try to get through it also. She and my dad split in 2010. So she has not had a lot of people to hug her and be physical with. This will be hard. I crawled into her hospital bed. I don't know. I mean, she was in and out of the hospital all year. I crawled into bed with her, and we put on Magnificent Seven. Or no, Great Escape. Sorry, The Great Escape. And she used to watch that with her father, who passed away from cancer also. And we watched the first half of Great Escape until she fell asleep, and I just lied there. I watched the rest of the movie. So I would go back and watch the second half of Great Escape with my mom.
Beautiful. Can't believe you weren't going to share that. It's beautiful.
I got through it, sort of.
You did.
Well done.
You did. I didn't. You fucking prick.
I kept my story shorter.
I know, but at the moment you were like, I have one, I was like, I know exactly what this is going to be. I didn't know exactly, but I knew it would definitely be your mom. Oh my God, that's beautiful. All right, too much fucking beauty going on. Let's get back to the comic books. People punching each other in the face.
Okay, so let's get imaginative with this.
Yes.
If they could have one fictional character on this podcast, who would it be? Obviously, it'd be Kevin Feige if it was a real person. Who would
I was
it be
gonna
as
say.
a fictional person?
You could pick another Kevin.
Yes, and let's be honest. We're not sure that Kevin Feige isn't fictional at this point. Nobody can be that good at their fucking job. This sounds like a made-up character. You know what
I've
I'm
never
saying?
met him. So far, it's all hearsay.
Yeah. Look, they got lots of guys in baseball hats out there. I think this guy is an algorithm. He's a program. And they put up an image of somebody and shit because nobody can be as smart and as talented as this fucking guy. Who would I like as a guest? Are they a guest or a third? Or a fourth? You're technically the third. Are you going to lose your job if we hire this fictional character?
They just said on the podcast.
So maybe guest.
A guest.
Mark, you go first.
A fictional character on the podcast. I kind of want Yoda. But then I also want the Watcher.
Ooh, Watcher gives good content. Nothing but content.
He's got nothing but stories. He's seen it all. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with the Watcher.
Let me see. I think, well, Bruce Wayne, if you interview him, you're not getting Batman, no matter how hard you try.
Right.
So, and who wants to talk to a rich person? And Batman is a man of few words, so Batman's not going to be a good guest. I mean, Superman would be pretty interesting. He's friendly, and he's also from another world and shit, but he's one of the most covered celebrities on the planet. So it's like, what new are you going to unearth from fucking Superman? Like, kryptonite's still a problem? Yeah. Like, all right. Let's see. Tony Stark is interesting. Well, although maybe it's that Robert Downey Jr. is interesting. So maybe we just want to get Robert Downey Jr. on the show. Is that possible? Can we get that happening, Mark?
We can always try.
We can't even get fucking Victor Garber. I don't think you're going to get fucking Robert Downey Jr. Garber shits on this show, man. RDJ, he's never coming our way. This is not a very original or clever answer, but you get a lot of content out of Darth Vader. You just have to be very careful and not piss him off. Otherwise, he's like, and you're like, that's it for Fat Man Beyond.
Come back next week when we're not doing it.
Same bad time, same bad channel.
Oh, you know who I think I might want?
Go.
Kermit the Frog.
Ooh.
I think Kermit.
Hi-ho. Hi-ho.
Hi-ho.
Hi-ho.
Tell me, Kermit, why are there so many songs about rainbows? Well, I'll tell you.
He's like, well, Mark, it ain't easy being green.
Kermit, also think about how many people Kermit has met doing the Muppet Show and the Muppet movies. Be like, what's Mark Hamill like, Kermit? Well,
that's true.
So
he's kind of in him. You get him as a guest, but he's kind of like a Dick Cavett, so he could tell you stories about all the people he's ever spoken to.
For sure. He's like Johnny Carson or Dick Cavett.
I like that. That's a good call. I'm going to throw one up that's trying to think of the things I absolutely have loved. And there's some people I'm like, ooh, but then I realize they're real people, not fictional characters. I would like to, it'd be amazing to have Chief Brody from Jaws as a guest. And have him tell a first-hand account of fucking Jaws through his point of view and shit like that. Talk about how
it smell like fish.
And my biggest question would be like, all right, you fucking killed Jaws, and then you guys have to swim back to shore. But there's all that chum in the water because of the dead shark. You don't think more other sharks are coming? Were you scared to swim home? Like, at what point, like, did you figure out, like, I guess, we got to swim home through the credits. Fuck. That's what I'd want to know. And I'd also want to know why a guy who's afraid of the water moved to an island, but so did his wife. So
yeah.
Also, his wife must have been like, you think he like walks in and he's like soaking wet and she's like, you fucking missed dinner. again.
Yes.
And he's like,
3 nights you've been out, and now you come back soaking wet. Fuck you. Go out in the car.
I wonder what it would be like. I wonder if you could get anything interesting from Thomas and Martha Wayne. You know, and like, because ultimately what you want is what hopes do you have for your son? You know, what would you like to see?
That would be a cruel interview, knowing what we then know happens to their son.
Yeah, like what were their initial hopes for young Bruce Wayne?
I think Bruce will be a doctor and a philanthropist and shit like that. Like, lady, no, he's not.
Yeah, all I want for him is to find the thing that he's good at and to just embrace it. And you know, I hope it's something that helps people. I hope it's something that makes the most use of his position as a Wayne in Gotham City. But I also hope that he just like finds some happiness and gets married, has a family, and you know, goes on to maybe run for mayor or something. He could do great things in the city.
Or could you imagine she's just like having them both on instantly, they get into some Court of Owls talk and shit like that, where you find out the dirty history of Gotham and shit and how Batman ties into it. Ooh, that'd be hot. Yeah. That is a good call, man. Riddler might be good too, but annoying because you can't get a straight answer out of him. You're like, hey man, so how old are you? Riddle me this. You know, oh fuck. Always with a catchphrase.
This is a 10-minute segment. We don't have all fucking night.
Yeah. Did you see Andy's interview, for heaven's sakes? Andy Park, why don't you be more like him? He's like, well, riddle me this. When is an Andy not a Park? And you go, gosh, shut the fuck up.
We're going to commercial.
Then he pulls out his question mark gun and shoots you in the face. And I'll be honest with you, Mark, you get shot with in the face with a question mark gun, it hurts just as much as the real gun. It's just shaped funny.
Why does this hurt so much?
Yeah, why? Because of that extra power to loop around and come out. What great questions, man. And that saved us from a real fucking tear fest as well.
Indeed.
What about you, JC? You got one?
Somebody in chat just said they'd like Ralph Boner on the show. Just like, Ralph, how does it feel to be named after the boner from Growing Pains? Or Ralph, and also, are you actually Quicksilver?
Or Ralph, what was it like when everyone was sure you were Mephisto? That's all we got for him? That's all the content we got?
That's what we got.
We gave him a hell of a show, I feel like. Ladies and gentlemen, did you have a good time? Of course you did, man. This is your happy time. Every week we gather together and have a good time talking about the shit that fills us with goddamn joy. We'd like to thank our guest, Andy Park, who just crushed it. Gave us some inside dope, and we got to learn about a position that maybe not everyone knew about before this podcast began. So we might have learned a thing or two together, man. Give it up for JC, who keeps us happening in the cyber world, but it sounds like, according to what he said, if he came in late, it sounds like the Scum and Villainy Cantina will be opening soon, kids. So, yes, very soon. And it feels like by the end of the first week in April, maybe second week in April, we might be able to have a live show with some people in the room. And that place is spaced out. As long as everyone wears their mask, man, you ain't got to be worried about that place. There are like private fucking booths. There's walls between everybody. It's set up for fucking quarantine and COVID shit. So hopefully we'll be doing this live and in person at the Scum and Villainy Cantina very, very soon. But even without being there, JC still make sure that you see and hear us. So give it up for JC.
Indeed.
And give it up for the man of many words, the man of many wisdoms, the writer in the group, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a writer. He's a writer, for heaven's sake. Give it up for my clever co-host, man, the man who knows all, sees all, captures the news, and has insightful questions. Great Marc Bernardin.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And also, let's give it up to our sponsor for this week, Zack Snyder's Justice League, coming soon to HBO Max this Thursday at midnight.
I loved it. I loved it, kids. And nobody wants to hear this and shit, or maybe some do, but some people are probably tired of this. But I'm sure somebody will be like, well, did he cry? Was it that good? I'm happy to report that there is a moment in the movie that did bring me to tears, and it happens within the first hour of the movie, and it's a Wonder Woman moment. And it's something that didn't exist in the Justice League that was released theatrically, which, by the way, Warner Brothers says is canon. Like, they're saying Zack Snyder's Justice League is its own separate thing, but that the Joss Justice League is canon to their universe, which I'm like, big mistake. Big mistake. Why would you do that? Snyder Cut is coming, folks. Zack Snyder's Justice League is its official title. And it's coming on Thursday. Wednesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern or Pacific. I can't remember which. You can find it online. It'll be on Zach's socials, on YouTube channel. I think HBO Max YouTube channel. I'm not sure. But we shot a whole red carpet premiere special in which I interview Zach, sit down and talk to him. Shows all sorts of footage, behind the scenes, some spoiler stuff. And then as soon as it ends, there's a live component to it at the end where me and Zach come on live so you can literally ask questions and stuff. As soon as that part's over, bam, Snyder Cut just debuts on HBO Max. You're not going to want to miss it. Thank you to the good folks at HBO Max and Zack Snyder's Justice League for sponsoring this episode of Batman Beyond. But let's be honest, man, they were getting it anyway. We were going to be talking about them regardless. But we thank them for their support. And that, ladies and gentlemen, until next week, is Fat Man Beyond for this week. I'm Kevin Smith.
I'm Marc Bernardin.
Tune in next time. Same fat time, although it might probably be Saturday instead of Sunday. Same fat channel. That never changes. YouTube, but it's also on my Facebook channel as well. That's why I can't smoke weed for some reason. YouTube.com/Kevin Smith, or no, that's your line.
Yeah, you do smodcast.com.
Smodcast.com or
YouTube.com/Kevin Smith.
I'm sorry, I'm stealing everybody's lines. Jeff's Kiss.